Ooh, welcome back to the Boneyard Podcast, everybody. This is your host, Jared Shaffett, along with my good friend,
Artie, bro.
We're coming to you this week with episode 200. Artie, what an episode. Hey, we've been doing this thing for going on, 4 years now?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been 4 years.
And it lines up, right? Like about an episode a week for 4 years. That gets you to right at 200. We've had some weeks off. Hey, we're probably going to take some weeks off this summer. That's just what happens in the college sports world when there's not much to talk about. But Artie, as we reflect back on 200 episodes, what is maybe your favorite moment of the Boneyard Podcast?
Oh goodness, you put me on the spot here. Favorite moment of the Boneyard Podcast. I mean, it's a lot. I think every time we've had like an ECU legend on, that's always I always just kind of sometimes I think back on some of those episodes. I'm like, damn, we really did interview Jeff Blake. We really did interview, CJ2K. We really did interview Shane Carden. Like when I really think about some of the guys we've had, ECU legends specifically, because this is an ECU podcast that we've had on this show, and kind of laying the groundwork for some of these other, podcasts and networks that have come along. It's incredible. That's probably my favorite thing about it to me.
And the fact that we started this thing 4 years ago. And look, we started out with some heavy hitters, right? Like we had
Gates,
out the gates. We were having the best guests on week in, week out, and as life kind of took on here for both of us, it was a little bit harder to find guests or spend time to source guests, but that's still the goal. And we've still got white whales that Artie and I are chasing down and want to get on, and we've talked with them.
And we got to double back on some of these guys too. We can bring some of these people back as well.
We need to. Maybe I'll hit up CJ2K and see if we can get him back on. I mean, Dwayne Harris has said he'll come on. I mean, talking to Dwayne Harris a couple of times. I mean, there's a lot of guys that we could get on, and we just honestly, I just need to follow up with them, and so we're gonna start getting some of these, and then we're working to get some more coaches, athletes on this year.
Definitely want to get Coach McNeil. That's a big one. I want to get Coach Kim on here. That's definitely a big one.
She said she'll come on. We just need to. I just need to hit up the right people.
Yeah.
We'll get her. I want to get Cliff Godwin. We'll probably get Cliff Godwin sometime this summer. I feel I almost asked for him this week, but I didn't want to. I felt like it was just too early.
Yeah, it might be a little too soon. You gotta.
He said he would come on, way back when, and I just need to, like I said, get in touch with the right people. But yeah, Artie, 200 episodes. That there's some stat out there that most podcasts don't make it past. I think it's episode 15, episode 20.
Yeah, something like that. They quit. It's like I can't do this.
And the fact that we're on 200, I'm proud of us, but I'm also thankful for all the listeners that tune in on a weekly basis.
Yes.
I mean, the fact that hundreds of people listen to us on a weekly basis and another 150 watch us on a weekly basis when we're live. That's impressive to me, and we appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, they could be watching the NBA Finals right now, but they're watching us.
They're watching us. You could be doing anything else in the world, but you're tuning into us, so we definitely appreciate that.
So shout out to y'all. Y'all are the real ones. You are true friends of the Boneyard Podcast. But Artie, let's get into it. Not a whole lot to talk about on episode 200. We do have a big guest. We do have ECU Athletic Director Jon Gilbert on this podcast. It's not going to be on the live recording of this. You'll have to either tune in on YouTube once the full episode is published, or you can tune in on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. tune in there. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a 5-star review. You'll get that content. Probably be out sometime tomorrow morning, if not later tonight. But yeah, Jon Gilbert, I sat down along with Josh, our producer, sat down with him about 2 weeks ago for about 20 minutes and just picked his brain. And I think there's a lot of good information in there. So stay tuned. Like I said, it's not going to be on this live show, so you'll have to watch that or listen to it once it's published. So make sure you subscribe so that way you get notified when that comes out. Episode 200, Artie. 200.
0-0.
This is probably the hardest number to pick because there's not many of them, but at the same time, there's a lot.
Right.
But I feel like there's not anything that there's not really any chalk. Maybe Russell Westbrook is chalk. But I can't think of any other zeros like just off the top of my head. I think Adam Ottavino wore the number 0 way back when, or a couple years ago with Toronto when he was in Toronto. But do you have a 0 for me?
I do, and actually, because it's 200, I got double 0. So I don't have a 0. I got a double 0 for you, and this is actually old school chalk. So this isn't new school chalk. If you were born, after 95, you may not know this name I'm about to mention, but this is definitely old school chalk, and any basketball head is going to know who I'm talking about here. And in honor of the NBA Finals, in honor of our friend Brandon, who is a Boston Celtics fan, Celtics are currently playing. I think they're blowing out the Mavericks right now over on ABC.
Not a sport.
Stop it. But that is one other Robert Parrish. That is my double 0 for the night. Hall of Fame Robert Parrish, played for the Celtics, Hall of Fame career. Went on to win 4 NBA championships, 9-time NBA All-Star. Was named to the NBA 75th anniversary team and went to the Hall of Fame in 2003. One of the little known, kind of key cogs in those dynasties of the 70s and 80s that the Celtics had, going back and forth with the Lakers. So Robert Parrish, my double 0 in honor of episode 200, honor the Celtics. I'm not a Celtics fan by any means, but in honor of them. So shout out to them.
All right. There you go. Mine, I didn't do a double 0. I just have 1 0.
Why you just so nonchalantly just blew off my double 0 like that, Jerry?
Hey, no, that's not.
Robert Parrish was an excellent one.
I honestly, Artie, I've never heard of him.
That you know what? That's fair, because you name hockey Hall of Famers, and I'm like, who the hell is this? So
yeah, mine isn't a hockey Hall of Famer. Mine isn't chalk. Does have a connection to the Carolina Hurricanes by way of wearing number 0 when he was with the Hartford Whalers, who in 1997 became the Carolina Hurricanes when they moved down here, moved the franchise down to North Carolina. Mine, right-handed defenseman, Neil Sheehy, played 379 games in the NHL, had 18 goals, 47 assists. I mean, just kind of your shutdown D guy, playing in honestly some of the hardest, maybe one of the hardest or more grueling eras of hockey. That mid 80s to early 90s hockey was it was a different breed. Granted, was it the most skillful hockey? Maybe not, but it was. Those guys were tough as nails. Playing during that time period. So that's mine. I like I said, 0's hard. 0's real hard. I can't think of another 0 off the top of my head other than the 2 I named earlier.
Yeah.
So
we'll start back to 1 next week.
Start back to 1. I got to go back and start listening. We didn't do it for episode 1. I know for a fact we didn't do it. It didn't start until about episode 40 that we started doing this.
Doing the numbers, yeah.
I want to say around 44. I think I said something about Hank Aaron on that episode, and then we just did it every week, and now we are, episode 200, and naming random ass people.
Right. Do got to make sure we're not doubling back and saying the same people though. So you're right.
Maybe we need to change it up. If you have ideas for how we can change up the numbers, Drop them in the chat. Drop them in the comments.
Open
Let us know
toss.
let us know what you want to see as far as numbers. If you want us to do years, we've done that a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Just recap years. So, all right, Artie. Let's move along. Boneyard Podcast. We're proud to be members not only of the Variety Sports Network, but also the College Huddle. Lots of content coming out later this year with that. So stay tuned. We're already talking with some podcasts from Duke, NC State, Carolina about doing a state of North Carolina football podcast. So just be on the lookout for that. Artie, really the only thing to talk about right now is the end of ECU baseball and quite possibly the end of ECU baseball as we know it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying ECU baseball is dead. I'll never count Cliff Godwin and his program out. But after this week, it just has a doom and gloom feel around the program.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that you lose twice to the 4th seed Evansville, you're the 16 seed nationally, like you're fighting tooth and nail to get that regional host, and then you do get it, and you struggle out the gate with Evansville. Come back, okay. After winning that game against Wake, I guess on Saturday.
Yeah.
I was thinking, oh, we have a shot. We have a shot to.
Yeah. It's within reach.
It's within reach. All we got to do is win 3 straight, right? And we got to win 3 straight against VCU and 2 against Evansville. And at that point, it was in reach. And then you come out Sunday night and do what you do to Evansville in that game, that must-win game to force a Game 7. And I mean, you just absolutely annihilate them.
Put up a football number.
And then you're like, okay, like I don't know who we're gonna throw, I don't know who's gonna pitch, but we have a shot. Like we've given ourselves a shot to fight for next weekend. And then it just didn't happen. And we'll talk a little bit more about some of those games in depth here in a minute, but watching Monday was a absolute heartbreaker, right? Like seeing this team had so many seniors on it, so many guys that have really been with the program, and they all talked about how Cliff Godwin is like a father figure, as a Christian leader to them. Like that was hard to hear, knowing how much they wanted it, not only for themselves, not only for the program, but a lot for Cliff Godwin. And it was hard seeing the emotion, but it's something that we've kind of grown used to seeing because it happens every year, right? And
right.
You can say, oh, well, there's always next year, but with the changing landscape of college athletics, next year always seems like it's going to be a little bit harder, right? I thought we had a good shot. I thought if we won this weekend, I thought we still had a good shot against Tennessee next weekend with Savage and Zach Root. I will never count us out if those 2 guys were on the mound. And now it's looking like now we're not going to have either of them next year, right? And we'll talk about the transfers here in a little bit, but just all in all, gut-wrenching, right? Like, especially the way you lose that game, you go up, you've got a lead, you can't hold the lead, and then you just get shut down in the later innings. The fact that that's how it went down for the Pirates, just all in all, it was a fitting end of the season for how they played over the last 6 weeks. And that's not a knock on the players.
Right.
That it just felt like what I've seen in the last 6 weeks. It caught up with the Pirates again but it did in an elimination game.
Yeah, I mean, I really couldn't have said it any better. We limped into the postseason. It's not an excuse. Still a 16 national seed, still hosting a regional. But I would agree that the way we lost, right, in the fashion that we lost to a 4 seed, and you got to give Evansville a lot of credit. And I wish them all the luck in the world against Tennessee, in this upcoming Super. Hope they are, absolute world beaters and Cinderellas, and I hope they go to distance. Truthfully, I do. If you beat us, then I want you to go to distance. I don't want you to go on and lose.
Yeah, I got news for you, Artie. That's not happening.
It's not going to happen. I get that, Jared. I'm not ignorant, but you got to give them a lot of credit. I mean, coming in playing like the conference champions that they were, the offense that they had been good all season, but to lose to a 4 seed twice after already beating who was projected as the favorite, who was projected as our biggest competition. You eliminate Wake in a classic. I know we're going to touch on that because that was a great baseball game. But
that might have been the best college baseball game all year so far.
Yeah, I mean, it was up there. I mean, that was a phenomenal. I mean, you talk about anxiety and heartache, but then you come out and you beat up on VCU, you eliminate them, and then, like you said, to do what you do to Evansville Sunday night, 19-6.
I was hoping and praying, and in the world of athletics, as an athlete, like you never, okay, you had a bad day, wipe it off. Tomorrow's a new day, right? Mm-hmm. I was hoping that something out of that loss would have broken Evansville, like broken their spirit, but it just didn't.
It didn't.
I was hoping and praying. I was like, we need them to go.
And that's where you got to give them a lot of credit because they literally come out the next day and said, whatever.
Cool, they could have come out that next day and been like, yeah, we don't have it. We got lucky on Friday, but they didn't. They had the skill, and that outfield, that center fielder, Rumsey, I think Tyler Rumsey, I think was his name. That dude looked like I don't even Andrew Jones out there with some of the catches he was making.
Yeah, he looked incredible. Yeah.
Like absolutely wild. I mean, guy had angels in the outfield on him sometimes.
And you had to know the jungle was giving it to him all games. So still perform that way and have those fans behind you.
That catch he made on Friday night might have been the best. That catch he made on Friday might have been the best catch I've ever seen in my life. Just laying out, going back.
They played well, but I mean, to me, it's still no excuse because to me, at the very least, with the season that we put together, with the 46 wins overall, I mean, they still finished 4th or 5th all time in wins in baseball program history. You've got to be able to get to a Super, right? You lose to Tennessee in a Super, nobody's gonna really batting an eye here. But losing to Evansville in a home regional, that's a little bit of a different story. That's a different feel.
Yeah, and look, say what you want. There's other hosts that were sitting at home or are sitting at home this weekend. Right. I mean, there's going to be others. Arizona went 0-2 in their regional. They were hosting. They lost that game that we had against Wake, right? And for us to beat Wake, the preseason number 1 team in the country, the team that everybody was saying should have hosted over us, that was big. So if you're saying, oh yeah, we should have won our regional, yeah, you want to win every regional that you go into. Sometimes it doesn't go your way. Sometimes it just doesn't. It doesn't break your way, right?
But that's the same narrative for the last decade, and it's going to be the same narrative for the next decade. That's just how it feels. It's fucking neutral. So
I swear,
the same thing a year from now.
I swear at this point, somebody did something and pissed off God to where he hates East Carolina. I swear, like
you see how bad our basketball team is right now. Let us have baseball.
You've seen the memes, Artie, where it's like God says, "I only give my toughest battles to
my hardest battles to my toughest words," or something like that.
Yeah, and I'm over here like, yo, like I could do without a couple battles, God.
Yeah, Yeah, just go on. Just let us on through.
So, all in all, it's tough. It really is tough. And early on in the season, it starts out the same way every year. This is the year we're gonna do it. We're gonna get to Omaha. We're gonna. I'm tired of seeing the 34, 33. Now it'll be 34 appearances in the College World Series and would never making it to Omaha.
Yeah,
I hate that shit. Like, I'm ready for that to not be a thing.
Now, in the same breath, though, you also still want to give credit to we are still spoiled as fans of a consistent program that's in the top 10, top 15 nationally every single year. And yes, we've had all those appearances in the regional. So I mean, we are still a damn good program, but it's not like we're not mentioning that or we don't understand that. Just at the end of the day, we had this conversation last year. We had this conversation 2 years ago. We had this conversation 3 years ago.
I can't. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's gonna feel like we're on top of the world when we make it to Omaha, and that's the thing is getting to Omaha has become this like crazy like goal, but that's not the end goal for this team. That's not the end goal for this program.
Right.
The end goal is to, I mean, be the top dog at the end of the year.
Natty.
And this team and Cliff Godwin, in my opinion, has the makeup to do that, right? And it just seems like everybody's like, oh yeah, we just got to get to Omaha. Yeah, you got to get to Omaha to win the national championship. But like once we get there, God bless whoever we play, because it's going to be that adrenaline from the Pirates is going to be next level. And that support. I mean, Greenville will travel. The state of North Carolina will travel to Omaha.
When ECU finally breaks through, I mean, I'm expecting 5,000-6,000 plus in Omaha. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, we're gonna paint Omaha purple.
Whole blocks of hotels just blocked off with just ECU Pirate fans.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen eventually. Stay with us. Stay with Cliff Godwin. Stay with this group of guys. Even when some of them don't stay with us, Artie. Let's talk about some of the. Actually, before we do that, I want to talk about this weight game, the game that we all thought was going to be the 1-0 game.
Right.
The 1-0 game. Both the top two teams won on Friday night. Okay, going into Saturday night, it's going to be Chase Burns, Trey Savage, mano a mano, two of the top pitchers in this draft, two of the top college arms in this draft, going at it. And we got that, but we didn't get it in the game we wanted it to be in. When we got it, it had even more hype to it because loser goes home.
Yep.
You don't come with your best stuff, your team season's done. And both guys came and balled out. Now, Chase Burns had already – he had the shortest outing of his season against East Carolina. Yep. And had the least amount of strikeouts that he had all season against ECU. We're talking one of the top three arms. Granted, the other top three arm was in ECU's dugout. Going at it. And the Pirates just kind of waited back on him and made him come inside and throw him a pitch that they couldn't let go, right? And ECU got after him in the fifth inning, or was it the fourth or fifth? They got out after him in the fifth inning. He came out for the sixth inning, and then I don't think he recorded it out in the sixth inning. But all in all, it was just absolute fireworks in that game. Like the first couple innings just matching strikeout numbers and just really going at it. Those two guys can pitch in the major leagues, and they're going to be in the majors very soon. Yep. And gone are the days where you get drafted and then you sit for 4 years in the minors and then get called up. I mean, we're seeing it now. I'm not saying these guys are Paul Skeens, but we're seeing it now. Paul Skeens was pitching in the College World Series last year. Now he's pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates, right, in the majors. So we'll see what happens, but I have a feeling that these two guys are going to be in the majors pretty soon. All right, Artie, let's talk about these transfers. Was there anything else you want to talk about on the regional? Congrats to Evansville.
Yeah, congrats to Evansville, and go be Cinderella. Seriously, you don't have a chip snowball chance in hell, but go be Cinderella.
I already had like an image thought up in my head for when we beat them, but it was a picture of Cinderella with a shattered glass slipper and walking the plank with her hands tied, and
Cinderella's still dancing right now.
Dress ripped, and I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna just delete this. No. All right, the transfers, and some of these were kind of surprising. Some of them are, and look, there could be more. I think we're at the point now where all the big names that we're going to have entered.
Yeah.
Just not seeing like who else is gonna be gone. Sorry, just getting a notification. My thought is Zach Root. We'll start there. He was kind of the first name that comes out. That one, you had the rumors earlier in the year that he was going to enter the portal, that he was already in the portal. There were rumors around how much money he wanted in NIL. He wasn't getting what he wanted in NIL. He was holding out for NIL. There were all those rumors kind of in the middle of the year. And he didn't seem like he was 100% bought in on the Pirates for whatever reason at times. Now, I'm not saying he didn't go out there and compete. He did. Right?
Because that's a tough loss.
He came back and he competed. He was out for a month, 6 weeks. That one's tough. Some people are saying that they think that he was rushed back to pitch and wasn't happy with his workload in the regional. Well, look, here's the thing. Like when you're a pitcher and you're in college and you want to make it to that next level, to a super, to Omaha, if you're the top level guy, you're going to have to go. I mean, I think back to guys like Carter Spivey a couple years ago where, I mean, throwing 100 pitches, it seemed like multiple days in a row to get them over the hump and just being that nails guy. And look, wish Zach all the best. Maybe he comes back. Who knows? I think he's one that is for sure gone.
Where do you think he goes to or tries to go to?
I don't know. I mean, he's a Florida kid. I could see him going somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Florida could use him, but we'll see. And I believe I think he had signed at Florida, and then something fell through with like NIL or something, and then he decided to come to ECU, or they pulled his scholarship, and then he decided to come to ECU. It was either Florida or Florida State, I believe. So there's that. Then you got Luke Nowak. This one was kind of surprising because you always can tell there's one or two guys that, like Cliff Godwin loves all these kids like they're his son, but Luke Nowak always seemed like he was given a little bit more from Cliff Godwin, and there's a special bond there, and seeing his name come up was very surprising to me. Like, yeah, he had a great regional, and maybe that's what did it. He went out on the biggest stage for his team, walked off Wake Forest.
Yeah.
I mean, hit a home run against what, VCU or Evansville. I can't remember which game he hit that home run in. But Luke Nowak was a dude, right, this past weekend. He didn't really do or produce like that all season long. He was more of a defensive outfielder that was gonna come in and save you in tough spots.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of interesting to me that he left, considering he knew he was gonna have one of the 3 starter spots in the outfield, right? Like next year, he was gonna be a starter. That was kind of interesting to me. I'm going down the list. There's so many at this point.
It's really sad.
Yeah, Corey Costello. That one hurts the pin. I didn't have him as a weekend starter next year. After this week, I might have had to put him maybe in the Sunday slot, but you never know how Jake Hunter is going to come back. I think Ethan Norby has worked his way into that rotation. Maybe not I don't know. You might have to put Norby in on a Friday night, depending on who you get in the transfer portal coming in. But Costello, not irreplaceable. Cam Claunch, this one was an interesting one, mainly because I think everybody thought that he was a senior and he was done. Somewhere along the way, he must have gotten an extra year of eligibility, because I think everybody I've talked to all thought he was just a senior.
Right. Just gonna ride off to the sunset and just never be heard from again.
Yeah, like I was like, okay, like he's a senior. But he's gone. I mean, at that point, I was thinking he was gone anyways, right? Because he was a senior.
If you already thought he was gone, it's not much of a loss.
Yeah. Drew Bryan, not a big deal. I mean, I believe he pitched 2 innings for the Pirates this year after transferring from University of Chicago last year. Then today, the hammer drops.
Bombshell.
Bristol Carter enters the transfer portal, and this is at Bristol Carter, who was an all AAC or American Conference freshman, made the All-American freshman team. This was after he got drafted last year and decided to forego the draft and come to college.
Right.
And which was interesting to me, right? Like, I think he made the right move. I think he made the right move of coming to ECU rather than, I can't remember where he was drafted exactly, but I think he was going to set himself up to really get a little more playing time, but also get in front of the big lights and be a true performer on this team. He enters the portal, and that was strange to me, because he also had one of the outfield spots locked down for next year. I mean, you thought you had your outfield set with Nowak, Bristol Carter, and Riley Johnson,
and 2 of those guys are gone. And
now you got Riley Johnson, who your whole outfield right now has 0 labrums.
And he's going to go somewhere big. I mean, he's a big time talent. So he's going to land somewhere big. But
yeah,
you would think he was already at somewhere big. Just thinking of the program that we have, but
I don't know. My guess is, I hate to say it, but I think he ends up somewhere in the ACC, and it's one of the in-state rivals.
Yeah, I can see a lot of Duke State. I can absolutely see that.
I don't know about State. Duke has an outfield spot that just opened up. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I
mean, if you're that good, but you're leaving a good program, that means you want to go somewhere bigger. You want to go to an ACC.
He's gonna go somewhere where he's probably gonna get. Somebody's probably offering him some money, but also here's the thing. I don't know if he was too happy with his playing time in the regional and so how he was kind of utilized this season, right? And he was the guy that almost every year you have one of those guys that Cliff Godwin has in the outfield that gets lifted in the 6th, 7th inning for a better defensive player. He was kind of that guy this year. Of course, you're not taking Riley Johnson out. You're not taking Jacob Jenkins Cowart out. So that was the guy that you took out. So maybe that's part of it. And look, just because you enter the transfer portal doesn't mean that you have to leave. Right? Like a lot of times it means you are leaving, but there are plenty of guys that have decided to, hey, I'm in the portal, but I'm going to withdraw my name from the portal. I'm going to stay. And that might be a thing that happens here at ECU with a couple of these guys. Maybe they want to see what's out there. There's going to be a lot of guys in the portal right now, Artie.
Yeah, and I know the state of college athletics, but it's just a little awkward to put your name in the portal and then renege and be like, oh no, like I want to come back and play with you guys. But I did play with you guys last week.
It's part of the business, right? Like these guys can now
college athletics are today.
They can test the waters, see where
it's free agency.
Right? Yeah, it's free agency for all. And there was a quote from Aaron Fitt from D1 Baseball on Twitter today, like, hey, this is mass free agency across all of college baseball. And there's going to be guys that come into ECU too, right? Like there's going to be guys that I always look because it seems like every once in a while Cliff Godwin brings in a guy that has played against ECU. He's seen somebody that played against ECU and then they ended up transferring in. Maybe I'm not thinking that correctly, but I just feel like that's happened a couple of times.
Yep.
Guys want to play for Cliff. He's a hard coach, but as we saw with some of the quotes after the regional, guys love playing for him. And to put all the talk to bed about, is Cliff, I keep seeing his name tied to South Carolina. Cliff Godwin is not leaving for South Carolina. If Cliff Godwin leaves for South Carolina, I mean, just wrap up the whole athletic department. Like if you can't keep Cliff Godwin in Greenville over South Carolina, I know South Carolina has a history. I know all that. I know they're SEC,
and they got money, bro. It's not that far fetched. It's not that.
Yeah, but he's had opportunities to go to Alabama. He's had opportunities to go to Ole Miss. He's had opportunities to go wherever he wanted to go.
Right.
And he just never did it. Right.
But that's also because he felt that he still had a window at getting to Omaha. But I mean, do you really think Cliff stays in Greenville 20, 25 years, never making a trip to Omaha? Like I feel like there is going to be that itch at some point. It's like, okay, I've done everything I can do here, and we're just not getting through.
Yeah, but
I do fear that sometimes.
Cliff Godwin isn't a guy that I mean, the guy just donated $100,000 of his own money to Clark LeClaire Stadium.
Man. Even if he leaves, he's a Pirate through and through.
Yeah,
he's always going to love his university.
He made a promise to Coach LeClaire that he would see this team go to Omaha and get this team to Omaha. And by God, that's what he's going to do. And he has said that multiple times. And now when we make it to Omaha, that's when I'm going to get worried. But I don't think he's going to South Carolina. I don't think that's not. And at this point, is it? I get like they have some probably better facilities, but our facilities are top notch when it comes to baseball, right? Like you almost, it's not Mississippi State or Texas A&M, Alabama. It's not some of these programs, but to be East Carolina University and have what you have,
you're good. Yeah,
you're pretty good. You're pretty happy with what you got. I don't see Cliff Godwin leaving, and anybody that does, like I don't see it, man. I don't see it. if it happens, I don't know what to say to you, man. If that happens, I don't know. It's gonna be a dark day in Greenville if that ever happens. That's gonna be, in my opinion, you could almost write a blank check to Cliff Godwin and say, whatever number you want, put it there.
Yeah.
I
see what you're saying, but it's just like I do also see the other side of it too. It's like
I think the pride of East Carolina and being the one to get ECU to Omaha is bigger than anything else. I mean, and I've talked to Cliff a couple of times, but I don't know him that well on a personal level, but from what I've heard and from people I've talked to, that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like for Cliff. And maybe we're all wrong. Maybe he's got us all fooled, but I don't think he does. He that's a man that bleeds purple and gold. He is the Ruffin McNeil of ECU baseball, but he actually could recruit and fire up a fan base. And that's not a shot at Ruff. That's not a shot at Ruff.
Fire up a fan base. Whoa, that's not fair, man. Ruff can fire up a fan base. The recruiting, I'm with you on that, but Ruff can fire up a fan base.
That's not a shot at Ruff. Ruff's a longtime friend of the podcast. But that's my take on it. Anything else, Artie?
I got no notes, man. I got no notes. It's a sad ending to yet another successful, good season, but I'm not going to say better luck next year. I'm not. Nope.
Hey, it's going to happen.
It is what it is.
It's going to happen. And by God, that bar that has Jell-O shots in Omaha, y'all got another thing coming for you.
Any bar for that matter. Any and every bar in Omaha.
No, there's that one bar that keeps track of all the Jell-O shots that are taken by all the teams in Omaha.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. ECU's going to win that by wide. By wide.
Get ready.
Probably about a couple thousand Jell-O shots.
Some other news. Connor Norby called up to the big leagues out of AAA to Baltimore. Hit a home run. What was it? I think it was last night.
Mm-hmm.
Hit a home run. Alec Burleson had hit a home run in 3 straight games after yesterday.
Nice.
And so Burley and Norby going deep on the same day. Norby's first home run was also his first hit. Shout out Connor Norby. Yeah. Excited for him. Big week for the Norby family. Look, yeah, ECU didn't advance to the Super Regional, but to have your son go out there and just absolutely shove like he did for ECU, Ethan Norby, and then Connor to go do what he did last night. That it's impressive, right? That they gotta be a happy family right now. And it's only up from here. I mean, I think Connor is going to show that he has what it takes to be an everyday major leaguer. And I would not be surprised if next year rolls around and Ethan Norby is our Friday night guy.
Yeah.
With the set that he had on him the other day, the firing up the crowd, the emotion he showed. Fire me up, Ethan Norby. That dude's got it. So, any thoughts on Connor?
No, just happy to see another one in the big leagues, getting called up, making the most of his opportunity. Stay there, and make the most of it.
Real quick, this is kind of as it comes in. Sydney McMillian finishes 17th in the nation, 5th in her heat in the 100-meter hurdles at the NCAA outdoor track and field national championship. So shout out Sydney. All right, Artie, real quick before we get to walk the plank, before we close it out, before we throw it to Jon Gilbert, I want to talk a little bit about this, and maybe this is a good segue into Jon Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about this bill with him.
Oh yeah,
but this bill that just passed the North Carolina House that would require Chapel Hill and NC State to play one of East Carolina, Charlotte, or App State every year, and also travel to one of those programs, I believe, every 6 years. I don't have all the nitty-gritty details, but in my uneducated, non-legal reading of it, and
Brandon will chime in.
Maybe Brandon's watching. Maybe he'll text me after.
No, he's actually probably watching the game. I can tell you.
Yeah, he's watching. He's watching the Celtics, but maybe he'll text me when he listens to this tomorrow and give us all the details. But that's how I understand it, Artie. Mm-hmm. How big is this for schools like ECU,
Huge.
Charlotte, and App? I mean,
this is how it should be. This is how it should be, and we shouldn't be pulling teeth for Carolina State and to play us anyway. We shouldn't be pulling teeth like that.
You've already got a bye game on the schedule, right? Like you're already doing a pay game, right? Like you're paying some Akron, Ohio to come in and play.
Yeah.
Why not do it in state? Keep that money in state. Help everybody in the state get better. Bring more eyes to the state. To me, it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Right.
Now, Chapel Hill, NC State are always going to say, "Oh well, it's a no-win situation for us. We had to play a tough opponent that could beat us."
I was just about to say we're not it's not a tune-up game. Playing at App State in Boone, playing at ECU in Greenville, even playing at UNC Charlotte in Charlotte. Now that they might have a coach and might be getting better. These aren't tune-up games, right? These are legit games that they could lose. But this is how it should be.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm excited. Hopefully, look, I think it's set to go through and maybe be passed later on this year. The date I saw was around sometime in October. So check on this. Wait on this. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
And it gives way for a program like a Western Carolina.
Yeah.
I
forget they exist, man. I really do be forgetting the Catamounts out there. I ain't gonna lie to you.
To add or to bring football up from the FCS level.
Yeah.
Right? Like it gives incentive for them to bring up from the FCS level, right? Now, I don't know if this is going to be like the one motivating factor that brings them up from the FCS level.
Yeah.
But you never know. I think it's a great idea. I think they should have to play. I mean, I think they should have to play 2 of the 3 every year.
And the people, maybe not nationally, but at least the people in this state, they will pay attention. They will care for that. They will show out in the masses, in droves. I mean, these are going to be big marquee games in the state of North Carolina, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we see every year that when a Chapel Hill plays an ECU or when a Chapel Hill plays an App State, we see what happens every single year.
And they're great for the local economies. So
exactly. And there's an extra buzz in the air when they play. And this bill also forces NC State and Carolina to play every single year, which is kind of getting prepared for if Chapel. I don't think NC State's getting asked to come anywhere. They've had one good athletic year. They're not getting asked to come anywhere. Like nobody. The ACC is going to keep them. Maybe the Big 12, but like
if you're looking at the Big 2, it's really the Big 10 and the SEC. And State's not getting an invite from either of those 2.
Carolina, I could see going. I think Carolina belongs in the Big 10. If they're not in the ACC, I think they're a Big 10 school.
That's a Big 10 school.
Just based on their basketball, based on
their sports and academics aligned.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're also their culture is more aligned with
the Big 10. Yes.
Big 10 than rather the SEC.
Yeah.
Just being
it's just
straight up. You know what I mean?
You can take it how you want, Chapel Hill, but that's factual.
NC State's culture is probably more aligned with the SEC, if you know what I mean. But yeah, it would force them to play each other. So that's kind of the thinking, is that if one of those schools were to leave, it'll at least force them to play each other to keep that money in the state. Now, I do think that part of that is if one of them leaves, the part of having to play ECU App or Charlotte is null and void. If I'm reading it correctly, I think that's what it means. So if UNC leaves, UNC and NC State still have to play each other every single year, but then they don't have to schedule ECU App or UNC Charlotte every year.
But I think the demise of the ACC is not going to be at the hands of a Carolina or Duke or State. It's going to be at a Clemson, Florida State, Miami. Those are the three schools that would cause the demise of the ACC. When those schools leave, that's when the rest will follow.
Yeah, and there's a rumor. I'd have to once again go back and verify, but there was something tossed around that with the subsidies that the state of North Carolina gave to the ACC, there's a requirement that if they only go down to 4 or 2 schools in the ACC from North Carolina, they have to maintain 4 schools in the ACC from North Carolina. I believe that there's a stipulation in there somewhere, but I could be wrong. So don't quote me on that. Don't fact check me. I feel like I remember seeing that and reading some of the. Once again, I'm not a lawyer. We are not lawyers on the Boneyard Podcast. We have a lawyer. He's not on the payroll, but he's a friend of the podcast.
Translation, you're saying East Carolina to the ACC within the next 5 to 10 years. That's what you're saying.
If Carolina and State leave, probably maybe, yeah. Why not? That's why I don't understand why everybody's saying, "Oh, it's leaving ECU out of that mix." Because if that really is true, then you're looking at probably ECU and App State, unless our luck, they'd go App State and Charlotte just to stick it to us.
I can absolutely see that. I think App's in regardless. I just think they probably would just like App more, but
I don't know, man. App doesn't do anything for me. Like, I get it.
They don't do anything for you.
App doesn't move the needle. Like, and I get people are going to say, "Oh, they're a bigger brand." I don't think App State's a bigger brand than East Carolina University. Maybe
nationally, they actually might be a bigger brand. I don't know. Nationally, people, because of the Michigan game, because of Texas A&M,
you won one game. You won one game, and then you beat a bad Texas A&M team. Congratulations! We've been doing it for 30 years.
On top of being known as giant killers, they're consistently good.
Yeah, well, we had been giant killers, Artie. We've been giant killers for the last 2 decades.
Yeah,
then we have a bad decade, and now you've been a giant killer for all of 10 fucking years. Get the sit down.
National championships
at the FCS level. At the FCS level,
and then they moved immediately to varsity. The FCS level and had success.
Get the hell out of here! No, fuck that. Fuck that. Fuck them.
You gotta call a spade, man.
No,
you gotta.
I won't give them any respect. No respect.
I don't understand the App hate, man. I understand the State hate. I understand the Carolina hate. I can understand the Charlotte hate. I don't understand the App hate. Why we hate App? App ain't done nothing wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. Just I think they get a lot of stuff that they don't deserve because of that game against Michigan. One game. One fucking game.
That's it. Like, if ECU would have done that would have changed the narrative of ECU. That would have done wonders to this program.
ECU has multiple wins like that, and it didn't change the narrative of the program. ECU has also numerous wins. You look at Miami. You look at beating State, Carolina. Look at West Virginia, the games against Virginia Tech.
True.
Look at that. All those games, South Carolina.
But
we've been.
Are any of those schools a national brand like Michigan? We're talking to Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, that kind of a brand.
I mean, no, but we're saying that, okay, they beat a team that has a big brand. Okay.
And
Carolina has a big brand.
That had the big brand was also number 5 in the country, I think, at that time. That they went there and beat them. And on top of beating them, I'm pretty sure they went back and won the FCS National Championship that year too. So they capped it off with a natty after going to Ann Arbor and beating.
Congratulations!
Michigan. I'm just saying,
Artie. All right, so Artie, when App State walks their bitch asses into Dowdy Ficklen Stadium this year, are you going to be wearing an A on your hat? Or are you going to be wearing a Pirate logo?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
No, I'm asking. I'll shut this damn podcast down right now.
You know exactly what I'm saying. don't do that.
Artie is secretly a Mountaineer.
I just don't understand the hate. Don't understand the hate.
The hate is I have seen ECU do all the things that App State has done less of than ECU, and they never got the notoriety that App State got.
We haven't done ourselves favors over the course of the better half of the last decade, though.
Right.
So, and that's on us.
But we've been doing it for longer than anybody else in the state that isn't Carolina or NC State, and we've never gotten this publicity. And then also, if it weren't for ECU, you wouldn't have a UNC Charlotte or App State. Don't forget about that part. So, yeah, don't think that I forgot. Don't think that I forgot. All right, that's all I got, Artie. That's all I got.
Just had to raise that blood pressure a little bit. We got you. We got you going.
God bless, Artie. All right. Yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, if you're not watching the live broadcast of this podcast, right now is where we will go to Jon Gilbert, ECU Athletic Director. Hope you enjoy it. This week on the Boneyard Podcast, we're pleased to be joined by none other than ECU Athletic Director Jon Gilbert. Welcome to the Boneyard Podcast. Jon, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, the pleasure's all ours. Jon, this is something that, we've been excited to have you on for quite some time now. You've been here at ECU for a couple of years. What's kind of been the biggest part of the evolution of ECU in your time here?
Well, you're starting me off with the
hard one. Get the hard ones out first.
December 1 of this past year marked 5 years for me. So I'm actually in the middle of year 6. It's been a remarkable journey. Number one, Katie and I love living in Greenville. It's such a great community and a great place to live. Really, I'd say all of Eastern North Carolina. The relationship with our student athletes, getting to know them on a personal level, watching them obtain a meaningful degree and then go on to get a job or play professionally. That's been probably the most rewarding. I think on a pure professional level, for me, when I came in, I would say there was a lot of instability, in and around the department. And I would say it was a very volatile time. And I think over the last, 5 years, we have created stability. I think we have a really good culture inside our department. We are, competitive across the board, probably more so than we've been since I've been here. Obviously, I know we had a down year in football, but I think we're going to rebound on that pretty quickly.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you brought it up because it does seem like, looking at the past regime and now looking at kind of what you've really kind of helped grow ECU athletics into. I mean, just looking at some of your notable hires. I mean, we could start off with Mike Schwartz, Kim McNeil. I mean, Shane Winkler had a phenomenal year this year with softball. I mean, you've knocked it out of the park, right? At least from the Boneyard Podcast perspective. What part of that do you think goes back to having those connections and just building that trust and building that trust that they can trust you to come to ECU?
Well, I think number one, when you look at head coaching hires, that they are extremely difficult, and there's so many variables at play. What you try to do is check off all the things you're looking for, and at the end of the day, you really don't know. I mean, I've been a part of coaching searches where you think all the boxes are checked, and then when they get in the position, they don't turn out, they don't have success. And then obviously I've been a part of really successful coaching searches. And so I think understanding each sport, that they take time to recruit in, and they all have their various dynamics. If you look at baseball, the way we recruit in baseball and who we attract, it is a much different recruiting dynamic in our other sports. And so you have to look at them individualistically as to what sports they are, what the challenges are, and then where we fit globally in that sport from a recruiting standpoint.
Josh, did you have a question?
Yeah. John, it's good to see you again. See you on the sidelines all the time, and so it's good to see you again. Just kind of touching a little bit more on the hires and kind of your connections with North Carolina and college athletics as a whole. Hiring Gary Higgins from Lenoir-Rhyne University. Mike Houston has a history from Lenoir-Rhyne University. You have a history from Lenoir-Rhyne University. Rick Barnes at Tennessee has that history with Lenoir-Rhyne. So, how much of those relationships that you've built just over the time of your career, seeing that you have over 30 years in this field, can you talk a little bit about just the amount of responsibility that comes with those relationships and kind of forming those over those years?
Well, I think relationships play such a key in everything we do in athletics on a daily basis. I'm constantly talking to people that I know about kind of where we are in the athletics world. And then when it comes down to coaching searches, I'm pretty much picking up the phone and talking to every coach that I know. And a lot of times I'll say, hey, do you know this coach at this school? Put me in touch with them. I want to get their thoughts on the position. And so when you get into these coaching searches, I do like to hear from a lot of coaches on what their thoughts are, because they have such a unique perspective. And a lot of times those coaches understand ECU very well. Like if I picked up the phone and called a coach in our league or someone that's used to playing us and said, hey, what should I be looking for in this coaching position? It's pretty interesting, the takes that they have. If they've played against us or they're familiar with us, it's valuable insight. The other thing is that I don't think people would fully understand and appreciate in athletics. We all talk to each other. Like there are no secrets. Like coaches talk to coaches, ADs talk to ADs. It's a very small world, and we all share information with each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of want to transition or shift gears a little bit. There's been some changes here recently within the American Athletic Conference. You're kind of the lead AD and finding the replacement for Mike Oresco. Talk about Tim Pernetti. He's gonna start the job here at the beginning of June. Talk about him and talk about that search.
Well, I think you got to start with, Mike Oresco has been a great advocate for the American, and he has not been shy about being vocal to advocate on behalf of the American schools. When the search process started, I think someone, with those similar qualities was going to be the next commissioner. And if you look at Tim Pernetti and his background, in my mind, he has all the check marks. He was a former student athlete, played football at Rutgers. He's a former athletic director, also at Rutgers. He has experience working for, media companies. He worked for ABC Sports. He most recently, ran or is running IMG Academy. So his breadth of experience is exactly what, we were looking for in the next commissioner. And I think he brings the wherewithal of what it is to be a former student athlete, former AD. He also, I believe one of his son is a student athlete. So he's a parent of a student athlete. So he checks all those boxes, but I'd also say he is a very out of the box, aggressive thinker. And that is exactly what our league needed moving forward.
Yeah. And to that point, I mean, in his press conference, his introduction press conference, he talked a little bit about private equity. Do you have any insight on where he's going with that? It's kind of new to the college athletic landscape.
Well, if you look across the intercollegiate spectrum, you see that schools are starting to engage in private equity and see what type of investments are out there. I think you'll see the American in similar fashion. I'm not saying that we'll partner with private equity, but we will certainly explore that path and see if there are some partnerships that could develop that could benefit both private equity and the American Athletic Conference.
Awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of financials, looking just a little bit into the future, ECU's deal with Adidas comes up at the end of the 2026 season. I know when you were at Southern Miss, you helped to broker the deal that got them their Adidas deal, welcoming them to the fold. So just do you have any insight or any type of feeling about how the apparel deals, especially with how NIL is going and how that market's going to kind of shift or play a part moving forward?
Well, I think if you look across the country, apparel deals are changing rapidly. They are not what they once were. Now, Adidas has been an unbelievable partner for us. I'm very thankful for that partnership and what they provide us. It certainly is on my mind because, in the athletic space, 2026 is tomorrow. And so, at the right time, we want to, discuss what that apparel deal looks like. But we're fortunate to be an Adidas partner, and I am very thankful for what they provide us. We have a great partnership with Adidas.
Yeah. Adding on to that, so along with money, last year we had our big money game against Michigan in football. Can you kind of talk about how those schedulings happen and a little bit of background into like how you're balancing taking a money game versus a home and home and things like that with other teams that are Sun Belt adjacent?
Well, it's back to relationships. Those games happen because of relationships. I think it is important to play a bye game periodically from just purely financial standpoint. Now, you don't really want to overload those because, when you play a bye game like that, you're typically going into a stadium as a big underdog. And so while the money is much needed, you also know that you're going in with a little competitive disadvantage. And so I think there's got to be a fine balance of when you play those. I am all for regional scheduling. There are a lot of good teams that are within driving distance that we can play that are good for our fan base. I think about Appalachian and Old Dominion and Coastal Carolina. Those are all good non-conference games that I think are worthy of playing. And then obviously we want to supplement playing big schools as well.
Yeah, I've always wondered, and obviously I don't expect you to give any details, but I've always wondered when's it going to come out that ECU is going to go up to Knoxville and go into Neyland.
Well, if you look at the schedule, we don't need a game for a while.
Yeah, I mean you're scheduling them out like 15 years in advance at this point.
Yeah. So I'd have no issue going over to Knoxville. We got a couple other games that we're in discussions with, trying to figure out that I think our fan base will enjoy. We just got to bring them to fruition, on a contract, and we're not quite there yet. But I think playing big opponents like that, it's good for the fan base and obviously good for the bottom line financially.
For sure. And I wanted to ask, I mean, we can talk about finances. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you. Pirate Unite campaign. It seems like it's rolling down the tracks. We're getting close. I feel like I saw where we had somebody come out and give us an estimate recently. What can you talk a little bit about those financials and how much it's going to cost and when we should expect something?
Yeah, the Pirate Unite campaign is going extremely well. Our donor base is stepping up in a very meaningful way as it relates to the indoor practice facility. I think that project's going to be somewhere around $25 million. We've secured $22 million of that. We've got $3 million to go. We've got a couple big asks out from the Pirate Club. Our Pirate Club staff has done a unbelievable job of connecting with our donor base. Ryan Robinson and the staff have just done a remarkable job with that. I would hope to break ground on that sometime after the first of the year. We got to get formal approval by the Board of Governors. We're hopeful that will take place in September. We got to close the $3 million gap. So we're going to put half of it on Jared and half of it on Josh to close that gap. But I feel good about that. And then certainly baseball, we'll take that to the Board of Governors as well for formal approval, and would hope to be able to break ground sometime after the first of the year on the baseball project. We also have a golf project that we're currently doing at Ironwood, fully funded by donors, redoing the practice greens and the driving range there. And then we're also redoing all the greens at Ironwood to bent grass. That project is currently underway, funded by donors. So, at the end of the day, we're raising more money and generating more revenue than we ever have. Huge positive for Pirate Nation in that regard. But look forward to getting these projects actually breaking some ground after the first of the year.
I got to ask, I mean, I feel like as an athletic director, maybe your golf swing's probably pretty good. How's the golf game?
I really don't get to play that much. It's getting better. When I go out, I basically go out and play. So I'm probably like a 15, 16 handicap. Just enough to be dangerous. But that's probably more of a retirement sport with me. In order to be a really good golfer, you got to spend time on it. And if I get a break, there's nothing like being on the boat in Eastern North Carolina, and that's probably my number one hobby.
For sure. Yeah, I've been talking with Coach Williams. Maybe we should just do some content with you. We all go out there and get a lesson.
That would be good.
I'd be down. Sign me up.
Yeah, we should do that.
Well, you heard it here first. Jon Gilbert in the Boneyard Podcast take golf lessons from Coach Williams. We'll make it happen. But really, I don't have many more questions. I know we're close to time. Josh, did you have any other questions before I ask him the hardest question of the whole podcast?
No, I don't have anything else. I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Well, Jon Gilbert, I've got one question for you. It's going to be the last question I ask you. We ask all of our guests this question. I've asked Mike Houston this question. I've asked several key players around ECU athletics this same question. I'm going to ask you, and the answer, it's important. I'm sure you've been to this establishment down the road. It's right there on Fifth Street called Sup Dogs. What's your order? What you go in there, you sit down for a nice lunch, nice dinner. What is Jon Gilbert dining on?
I'm probably going hamburger or cheeseburger. I'm going a hot dog with coleslaw on it with a little mustard and ketchup, French fries, and I'm probably washing it down with an orange Sup Crush.
Damn right. That's a man of the people right there. That's why he belongs here in Greenville. Thank you so much, Jon. It's been a pleasure getting to talk to you again. Excited for the future of ECU.
Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate what you all do, and go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
Go Pirates.
Artie, let's do a walk the plank for episode 200, and then let's get the hell out of here.
Good.
All right.
Walk the plank. If honestly, we've reached the end of another athletic season, and I love my Pirates, and this has been one of the more frustrating overall athletic seasons I have had to witness as a fan, but I think the grass is greener on the other side. I want to mention that football is the next thing that we're about to be talking about when we do come back full swing with this thing. I cannot wait. JDB, burn the boats. Coach Houston, I think we're in the right direction. But that was a very, very frustrating football season. It was a very frustrating basketball season. And yet another good baseball season, but not great, and a frustrating end. So I do want to say walk the damn plank. Let's wash clean this ECU athletic season, and let's come back refreshed, and let's actually have some more production going into next year.
Look at you actually putting thought into it and thinking about the program and wanting to start fresh. I also want that, but that's not my walk the plank. My walk the plank is what's this girl's name? Trinity Carter and Angel Reese, the WNBA players.
I was going to touch on this. So I'm happy you bring this up.
Like, all right, look. Before I say this, I want everybody to know that we at the Boneyard Podcast support women's athletics.
Don't say nothing ignorant, because usually that's followed by something about an ignorant statement.
But the WNBA, WNBA has been subsidized by the NBA for far too long, and complains about not having fans, complains about not having notoriety, and complains about not getting paid the same amount. Right? I get that. I get it. I get your complaints, but we've also had this conversation that you don't bring in the same kind of money that the NBA has. You don't bring in the same kind of fan base that the NBA has. And I'm sorry, that just means that you're not as valuable than the NBA is. And I hate the NBA. I'm saying that as somebody that hates the NBA. Look, I didn't see this. This wasn't going to be my walk the plank until now. You have Angel Reese earlier this week or last week saying, oh, people don't just watch the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. They watch the WNBA because of me and all these other players too. And that might be right. I get it. You want to have fans. You want to grow their game. They want to grow their own game. And then for them, 3 or 4 of their teammates to go online and complain about one paparazzi camera asking them questions about whether they reached out to Caitlin Clark.
Well,
get the hell over it.
I heard he legit harassed.
There's a video of it, Artie. There's a video of him.
Legit harassed him.
He was filming them on their phone as they walked into their hotel, asking them, "Hey, did you reach out to Caitlin Clark?" And the security guard's putting his hand in his face. He never touched them, nothing. You wanna complain about it? Then find another job. Go flip fries or go flip burgers. I don't give a shit. I don't know.
This is audio of everything he said.
There's the clip I saw. It wasn't bad.
Look, what I'll say is that we're talking about it. We're talking about it. We're talking about the WNBA. We're paying attention. We're watching. This is all beautiful for the.
I ain't watching, Artie.
It's all beautiful for the WNBA. Whether it's Caitlin Clark, whether it's Angel Reese, you got the good guy versus the bad guy, villain role, whatever you want to say. This is all great for the sport of the WNBA because we are talking about the women's game, regardless. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. Whether eyeballs are watching because of Caitlin Clark, or they're watching because of Angel Reese, or they're watching because some of these other phenomenal players. And the women's game is the best it has ever been, bar none. But all publicity is good publicity when it comes to this. So,
Artie, I just texted you the link here. I'm gonna play this audio.
Have you gotten a chance to reach out to Caitlin? Come on with that. Relax. Have you gotten a chance to reach out to Caitlin?
It's one guy.
Have you gotten a chance? The basketball world wants to know if you got the chance to reach out to her. It's hard.
That's the audio.
that's it.
That's it. So harassed, shut the fuck up, sit the fuck down, and walk the damn plank.
It's not that big of a deal, though, man.
No, I'm just look, Artie. You got me fired up on the App State shit.
You know I'm right about that too. You know I'm right. That's why you fired up because
Artie. You got me feeling like the tweet that I was about to send off the other night.
Oh, I'm happy you didn't fire that one off. That would have people in our mentions still right now.
That would have lit the NC State Twitter world on fire.
It's all right.
Maybe I should have. If they lose their super regional this weekend, I might. The guy said, when we lose, I hope y'all talk y'all shit too, and so that's what I'm saving it for. When they're out, I'll talk my shit.
We will.
So stay tuned for that. It's in the drafts, Artie. I've got it saved in the drafts of our tweets, so we can still send it out. I had to run it by our counsel on the Boneyard Podcast because it was too fiery. Calling out their mom, their grandmother, their daughter.
It was a lot in there. It was a lot.
All right, Artie, episode 200 of the Boneyard Podcast is in the books.
Yes.
Let's get out of here. But first, let's tell the people, subscribe to the Boneyard Podcast wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, whatever. Leave us a 5-star review. If you do, you're a friend of the podcast for life. If you don't, Artie, what can they do?
Walk the damn plank.
For sure. Subscribe to our YouTube. That's once again where you'll be able to see our Jon Gilbert interview. I got a text from producer Josh, who, congratulations to Josh. He's been married for quite some time now,
Right?
but
yeah.
he's been on his honeymoon.
Yeah.
Phase 1 of his honeymoon, I believe. He's going again later on for phase 2.
Multiple parts, because that's they grown and sexy. Love it.
So we just got a text as we've been recording. That he will have that up first thing tomorrow morning, so that should come out then, and then also I think that's it. Did I say follow us on social media at Boneyard Podcast, and then that's it. That's it, Artie. You'd think after 200 episodes of this, I would know what I'm doing, but I don't. Shout out to you, Artie. It's been a pleasure. Here's the 200 more.
Hey, thank you, brother. As always, it has been a pleasure rocking it with you. I can't imagine nobody else I'd rather do this show with. And I always love raising your blood pressure every time I get the chance to. But at Pirate Nation, wash your hands, wash your butts. We'll see you next time. Deuce.
Peace.